this was one of the most complex and important missions of my entire career, and up to that point, it was the most bizarre mission I'd ever heard of. I barely survived it. Our situation was desperate. Our only airbase in the area was surrounded by large numbers of well-armed, hostile ground forces. The Japanese had bullied and intimidated the old Kolombongaran tribesmen to build airstrips for them all over these islands, but they also introduced a new strain of malaria, and it was killing the whole tribe. Now, we had quinine, and some genius back in Hawaii figured we could use it to save the tribe and persuade them to build airstrips for us instead of the Japanese. The crisis escalated when we learned that the chief's 3-year-old daughter, the Princess Quinine, was desperately ill and not expected to survive another day without quinine. So they stuffed my right auxiliary fuel tank with millions of dollars worth of quinine and ordered me to fight my way onto the disputed airstrip. By this time, the Japanese already controlled the northern half of the strip, deliver some quinine to our medical staff, stay long enough to see if the princess would survive, and then use the rest of the quinine to negotiate a deal to get the Kolombongarans building our airstrips instead of Japanese ones. Well, sir, I came in low on fuel, high above the airstrip. Our radar was out, so I had to fly upside down to examine the situation through my cockpit canopy. I'd been alerted by radio that the Japanese had at least 2 aircraft strafing and bombing the troops down there. The base's main radio was dead too, but Marine Corporal Angelo Garcia had one of those old walkie-talkies, and he was using it to guide me and coordinate delivery of the medicine to the very anxious base doctor.
Okay, I see you now, almost directly above me. I'm at the south end of the street. There's a bandit south of you shooting up the town. If you can chase him off or shoot him down, we might get a clear chance for your landing.
Roger that. I'm in on him. This particular bandit was way down low at the time, and if I'd have just dove in right on him, I'd have killed myself, so I had to spend some time dancing on his head just to burning off my excess speed. First, there really wasn't nothing I could do. I just had too much altitude and too much speed. I watched in dismay as I saw him continue to shoot up that town. This part was actually kind of fun. I spent some time looping and diving above him, trying to get his attention. First, he just ignored me, probably didn't know I was up there, but after about 3 or 4 passes, as I got closer and closer, he saw me up there and decided he'd better take off, headed for the hill, so to speak. Now, you understand that by this point in the war, most of them Japanese pilots weren't very good. Their veterans had been killed off, and we was mostly fighting against young kids without much training. But this guy was different. He was pretty good. I could see by the way he was maneuvering. He was confident, and he knew what he was doing. So I decided I'd better get myself a little more energy, made one more loop up and lined up, threw my engine into war emergency power for a minute, make sure I could clobber him from above, and then he started turning to get off over the mountain. It was at this point I made me a small mistake that pretty near cost me my life later on. That's simple. In my haste, in my excitement, I forgot to arm my cannon, so I ended up, when I attacked him, I only had my .50 caliber machine guns firing as if I was one of them little P-40s. About half of the lethality in my P-38 was just forgot. Other than that, I'd done everything pretty much right on, and my timing was good. He climbed over the crest of that mountain just as he came into my gun's range, so I got a perfect planned view of him and set up for some shooting. Got several hits on him, and it just sprinkled .50 caliber all over his wings and fuselage. And had I had my cannon going, he would have exploded. But as it was, I figured he was serious enough hurt that he was out of the fight, and I turned back toward the airstrip, maybe a little too soon. Because, as I found out later, I had underestimated him again. He was still in the fight, still had a little fight left in him. He was going to head back, and I would meet this guy once more.
Okay, Corporal Garcia, I'm headed back.
You still down there? Is it clear for me to land now? Watch for me coming over the mountain. I'll be there in a minute. Well, sir, even as I was speaking that, I could see it was not clear. There was tracer fire, machine guns going off all over the place, and they was converging on another aircraft. There was a bandit down there straight from the airfield. Figured I'd have to dispatch that guy too, so I lined up to make an attack on him, knowing that if there was a bandit out there, I would not be able to land safely, and my mission would fail. The medicine would not get delivered, and I might end up dead.
You've got him. He is down. He is down. The other bandit is coming back. He's still alive. He's coming back over the mountain. Watch out behind you.
I had been warned by Lieutenant Garcia that first bandit was coming back at me, and it's a good thing I got that warning, because I still had lots of speed from my dive. I was able to zoom back up and assume a position of dominance. I saw him fly underneath me, loop down onto his tail, and the fight was on. It was quite obvious he had hoped to catch me unawares, but with the warning I got from Lieutenant Garcia, I was able to get behind him. At first I was too low. I climbed back up on him, had superior speed, and was able to just kind of chase him down. His aircraft had been weakened, so it didn't take much to bring him down. Eventually he exploded in a tremendous firewall over the south end of the town. That was my moment, perhaps my last chance, I knew, to make a safe landing and deliver that medicine, so I quickly turned back toward the field. Again, I had a lot of speed from the combat, had to burn that off with some looping, and I pulled my nose up, dropped my flaps, dropped my dive brakes. When I got slow enough, dropped my landing gear, turned to line up toward that airfield. I could see bullets a-flying and troops running back and forth. And Lieutenant Garcia was on the radio talking about capture and the enemy making their move. It was a terrible situation. I was in a race against time, knowing if I didn't get down now, I might never get the chance.
The Japanese have overrun the field. Repeat, the Japanese have overrun the field and the base is captured. They will soon be firing at you. You need to turn around and get out of here. Crash land, belly land on the beach, and I will find you. I will find you and collect the medicine. Belly land on the beach.
Our base had been overrun all right, and they captured 2 of the anti-aircraft guns and started firing at me. I'll tell you something, I have faced Japanese bullets before, but I have never faced Japanese bullets aiming American guns, and I learned a lesson. They hit me. They shot me in the head, shot out my jaw practically. I was bleeding bad, in danger of passing out, didn't know if I'd be able to even bring this airplane to a safe halt. The situation was real tense. During the next minute or so, I passed out and revived several times. I was in tremendous pain, and I had to fly with one hand because I was using the other one to hold my jaw shut and slow down my bleeding. Somehow, I was able to get my P-38 leveled out and aimed at the beach of the nearest little island. My airplane was still flying good. It had not been seriously damaged, but my medical situation was critical, and I knew I would not live long enough to even think about landing on any of our air bases, even if I'd have had the fuel, which I did not. I learned later that Corporal Garcia was able to evade the Japanese, and he had watched me crash into the water. That brave man swam over to where I had ditched my P-38. He found my medicine kit, patched me up, and got enough of the quinine out of my banged-up airplane to save that little princess girl, too. From that point on, the Colombongans started to building our airfields instead of Japanese ones, and the whole war turned in our favor. I got picked up 10 days later and recovered my health except for 3 missing teeth on the left side of my jaw. Altogether, it was a hairy experience.